Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I'm your regular host, LeTara, back again with Dr. Eric Vera.
Hello, hello. And you know what? Just like Norma,
I'm back.
it's
Yeah.
always great. You know what? Off camera, you and I had a conversation about like, should we do something this week because we have Thanksgiving? I am at home, my hometown with my family. They're out running errands, and when we were talking, I was like, I watched the episodes and I was like, this is a really good week. I was like, in even on vacation mode as I can get. I was like, oh no, this is a really good week. I'm totally down to talk about passion.
I am very thankful for Passions this week. I'll say
Yes.
that. I'll say I'm thankful for Passions this week. So, gobble gobble, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Because this episode technically is supposed. We'll see when it comes out. Today is Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll
Today
see.
is Tuesday. It should come out on tomorrow, Wednesday. So you should all get it before Thanksgiving, but who knows?
Whatever you get, be thankful.
Yeah, exactly. Who know? Oh, and again, I mean that's for the patrons. The rest of you, the rest of you, the rest of y'all will get it next week, a week after Thanksgiving. All right. So this week, before we get started, we're going to say a shout out. Speaking of patrons, say a shout out to all our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so much to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Monique, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S., Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, our Lisa across the pond, Jessica Jean, Laura, Thomas, and Karen. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons. And, some of y'all have been patrons since the very, very beginning. I thank you. Y'all are some ride or dies, and I love it. Thank you so much. And if anybody else out there in podcast world wants to join the Patreon, check out patreon.com/passions podcast or click the link in the description, which will take you to the link tree, which has all kinds of everything on there. So with that said, it is time to get into this week's episodes. And y'all, I am so excited to talk about these episodes this week. Like sometimes, y'all know, sometimes I come in and I'm like, it was a week. It was a
Yeah.
boring week, and we're gonna talk about it, and it is what it is. And we still find things to talk about, but my God, this week was so fun. This week was
Yeah.
so fun, and I honestly I was dreading watching because I've been really really busy, and I like just didn't want to spend my free time watching Passions, like what little time I had. And Eric, that's why Eric and I are actually recording on Tuesday today because I texted him on like Saturday, I was like, can we push this back? So thank you, Eric, for being
No,
flexible. I
and
really
I
appreciate
I I
it.
felt good that I watched them, and when we talked, I was like, I was shocked. First of all, I had a long drive when I was doing it, and so when I was watching slash listening as I was driving, and I was thoroughly entertained to the point where when we had a conversation, you were like, "Oh, now you make me want to go watch them."
Yeah, exactly.
So
Eric,
I'm happy the pitch worked because I was like, you know what, it is. I was laughing, I was hooting and hollering over certain things that happened, and so I'm excited to talk about it.
yeah, Eric really talked them up this week, and he was right. He was right. So, we watched episodes 566 through 570 this week. I can't believe we're almost to 600. That's
Yeah,
crazy. But we're gonna start with our magic storyline. That's been a theme recently that I've
yeah,
been starting with magic, but it's been pretty. It's been pretty dope, honestly. Like it's been the most. It's been like the most interesting storyline, really.
yeah.
So
And weird shit happened this week.
yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Oh, so good. Okay. So we pick up and we're all, of course, we're all still on Warlock Island. Remember, everybody's stranded. There's a storm of the century outside in the caves. The kids have made it out of the caves, but Tabitha's still stuck in the cave. So we're gonna talk about Tabitha, where Timmy is releasing her from the warlocks chains, what shackles, whatever. They had her
Yeah,
like shackled to
Strapped.
like a
Yeah.
strap. There it is, strapped to like a rack, like a
Yeah.
medieval rack. So Timmy's getting her off of that while Norma is fighting with the warlocks, and the entire time, this lady, this poor actress, was, when I say she was simply screaming in the background, like we didn't see it, we only heard it, and it was just ah.
Yeah.
Like Zoom will probably cut it out. Like
Yeah.
Zoom probably won't even make the sound right because it was, it sounds like something that shouldn't be in
Yeah.
a show. Like ah.
No, no joke. And I'm like not even kidding. When Tabitha and Timmy had so much dialogue, all of it was underscored by Norma fighting the warlocks and that yell. She's like, ah, ah. I mean, I don't even know if it was if they looped her voice or if this actress was legit just screaming the entire time. But whatever it was, I was impressed by it.
It was so long. It went on for so long. But yeah, she's fighting with the warlocks who take her dad's head at one point,
Yeah.
and they're basically playing like monkey in the middle
Yeah.
with her dad's head. So of course, once that happens, she's like really ready to fight with them.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
she's fighting with them. Timmy frees Tabitha, praises her for her bravery, tells her, Tabitha, you're actually really good, I think is what he says to her at one point. And he says that you were willing to sacrifice yourself to and save all of the others, all of those kids. And she was like, I couldn't give two shits if those kids
She
survived. It
answered
was
our
really,
question.
she did. It was really about you. That's why I wanted you to go with the others, which is exactly what you said last week. Exactly what you said last week. So yeah, no, Tabitha is not quite good yet, but
Yeah.
there's seeds
When it
there.
comes to Timmy, she is that's the one thing that will make her do good things.
Yeah. And so they get to where the exit is, but the rocks are closed. And Tabitha says, there's an exit here. I just have to find how to open it. Like it's here. So there she's like hitting the rocks and banging on them and trying to get out. I think she has what's her name's hatchet. Is that true? No.
I
No,
can't
she
remember.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I made that up. I made that up entirely. Cuz
There's a lot of hatchet business.
because Norma comes back with the hatchet and she
Yeah.
says, "I'm back." That's yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
there is a lot of hatchet business.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
busy hatchet. But she finds the exit and is trying to get back, but she can't get it open. And that's when Norma comes back and is like, "I'm back."
Yeah.
And she like starts running in with the hatchet and she's chasing them around and
At one point, she actually gets a hold of Timmy and chucks him
mm,
across in doll mode, but he does get hurt
yep, yep.
because she finally managed to grab one of them. Before all of this, I wanted to note that at some point Tabitha just mentioned that the only way that they're going to be saved is if Charity uses her powers, which is just so, I mean, I'm happy to hear it, but I wish they would have written it a little bit more nuanced, in a nuanced way, because it was just kind of a random fact that they were like, okay, let's just insert this because it's important with what's going on outside. But she just mentioned that the likelihood of them surviving really depends on whether Charity uses her powers to stop this storm or not. But she
Oh,
didn't even give that much detail. She just says Charity needs to use her powers.
oh, Dr. Eric, after 556 episodes of this show, you expect nuance from these people?
I do when it comes to the magic stuff. I am always like, I want more rules, and they don't. They're just like, you know
There
what?
are none.
Tabitha has no powers, but then the next day she's like, maybe I can muster up enough of them. So like, yeah, they always do this to us. But yes, she does mention Charity needs to use her powers, just to wedge that in there.
Yeah, she does. And Charity will be using them very soon. So
Yeah,
let's pick up with the kids very quickly. Oh, actually, let's finish with Tabitha very quickly.
yeah,
Actually, so Tabitha and Timmy are running around this cave, and the cave doors at one point.
yes,
This is why I thought it was the hatchet. It is the hatchet that opens the cave eventually.
yeah.
What's her name?
Norma.
Norma is like hatcheting away at a big rock, and it gets like stuck in a rock, and that opens the cave doors, and she's pulling at that while Timmy and Tabitha run out, and then they celebrate
so
Prematurely.
premature. Yeah, it was so funny. But they were like reveling in the fact that Norma is powerless without her hatchet. Now, I want to give her some credit. Listen, Norma, what we talked a little bit about it. Norma kicked those warlocks' ass.
Yeah, she is far from powerless without her hatchet.
Yeah, so like
Like that woman is a steamroller all on her
yeah,
own.
and so like when I'm just laughing because I'm like Tabitha and Timmy have faced so many things, but it turns out that if I would be more terrified of Norma now at this point because Norma has taken on the boys in the basement and these warlocks and not even
Yeah.
cared. It doesn't phase her at all. She's just got
Yeah.
a mission.
She has
So
defeated the warlocks of Warlock Island. Like she won the game.
yeah,
She beat the big bosses. So yes, they make it out. They start celebrating. Tabitha's talking about making martinis. Girl, how are y'all gonna get off this island? Excuse me? And it's a
yeah,
storm, like it's the rain's pouring. Anyway, so at this point, the children have been swept away by rushing water. Charity is the only one who hasn't been swept away. The kids spend the in not the entire week, but a good chunk of the week fighting this water.
yeah,
Just like in the water. I couldn't tell you what was said. It was very loud, but there was a lot of dialogue with them. I
yes.
can't tell you exactly what happened. Check it out for yourselves. It's like 556, 557,
It's a
558.
lot of them just being like, "Where's Charity? I gotta get to Charity." Miguel! Oh my God, I was so tired of hearing Charity screaming at the top
Screaming
of her lungs.
Miguel. Oh
God
my
bless her.
God.
God bless her. God bless all the actors in those scenes. I can't imagine what it was like to be in that filming in that whirlpool. But
Yeah.
like at one point, Miguel's basically fighting like one of those endless pool things where he's just like swimming towards this thing. But yeah, it's just a lot of like, what if we don't get out of here? What if we, oh no, we should go this way? What do we do? Like it just was so many scenes of that while Charity is watching from afar.
So my note says the kids are swept away by rushing water, except Charity. The kids fight for their lives as Charity screams for Miguel. And then she's attacked by a tree? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yes.
And then so y'all Charity's like screaming for Miguel. And then she runs along, like, I guess the shoreline, and a tree trips her up. Its
Yeah.
roots come up, and like we see the roots move, like Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings style, right? So the roots come up and they trip her. And I was like, oh, the tree's coming for Charity.
Yeah.
And the tree like turns and the tree starts talking to her.
I just
I
I
mean,
and you know what? I love Passions, warts and all, but I'm like, little angel girl, you love using her. Why didn't she show up? But there
you
was a
know
very
what?
specific motivating reason for it.
And frankly, I love it. So grandmother Willow when not to you will understand. Like, see, honestly, this is what this
Yeah.
tree is basically doing to Charity. It's
It's
telling
a
her,
very Jim Henson-y Muppet looking like where a flap is opening to indicate a mouth. Like that is what weird puppetry
yeah,
we're getting.
yeah,
Um,
and yeah, it's a mess. but
when the
but
when the when the tree tripped her, I really thought about Evil Dead, and I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Is this tree?" I again, I was watching slash like just listening, and so when I saw that, I was like, "Did the tree just move or not?" I was,
oh right, yeah, because you weren't really looking at it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And it was dark, but yeah, it tripped her up. So the tree tells her, Charity, you have the power to save your friends. You have the power. And it says, use your power or everyone will drown. All of your friends will drown if you don't use your power. She, to in Charity's full defense, in full defense of Charity this week. I know y'all never thought out you would hear me say it, but in complete and total full defense of Charity, she keeps asking this motherfucking tree, how?
yeah.
I mean,
And
she,
this and
she's
this
like,
tree's got
okay, I'm on
attitude.
board.
Yeah,
I'm on board, but how? And the fucking tree just keeps going, you have the power.
yeah. Yeah, this tree has an
Okay.
attitude also. Like we're gonna get into it because this tree is like got yeah, has an attitude. Yeah, Charity, at least Charity's doing something because her just yelling Miguel was really upsetting me. I'm like, go find a vine, go find a rope, go find
Go
help.
find a vine.
I mean, yo, do something. She was just literally screaming Miguel's name for maybe like 2 episodes before we finally
No.
got this talking tree.
You saying go find a vine, like my immediate thought was to like vines, like the videos
Oh,
that we used to go find
I'll
a
find a vine.
vine.
How to save my boyfriend and friends from
Yeah.
a downpour of rain.
No, Charity's just looking at Vine compilations to take her mind off of the horrific events. She's like, I can't save them. I guess I need to get on Vine and
Well,
and
they are
laugh a
still in the
little
middle of
bit.
Hurricane Tortilla.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, right. So, anyway, this tree, she's asking it. She asks it so many times because it keeps saying, use your power," and she keeps saying, how?" And finally, the tree says, concentrate and look deep inside yourself. Real helpful, tree. Like, come on, man.
well,
Come on.
and it's gonna really upset me because then the tree has some terms about how her. It did really upset me because I'm
I
like,
love this though, and once we okay, we're about to talk about it.
yeah,
So the tree says, concentrate, look deep inside yourself. And then it also says, but you must be willing to pay a terrible price. And the tree says, you ask something of nature, you must give something back. Now, I don't know if y'all know this about me, but I watch a lot of anime. And one of my favorite animes is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And in that show, there's something called the law of equivalent exchange. So alchemy is basically magic, but
yeah,
it's natural to the world. So anytime you do magic, you have to give something. Like you have there's a law of equivalent exchange. So the bigger the magic is, the bigger the penalty. And
yeah,
so like in the show, I'm not gonna ruin it for anybody, but sometimes to the point that like you can be giving up limbs, right? To
yeah.
the magic. So when they said, I was like, oh my God, the law of equivalent exchange.
Well, I wish they would
um
have given us some rules like that. But I mean, yeah, he basically says in order for you to use your powers, you got to be willing to give up something.
And that's a thing though. Like I just said, in Full Metal Alchemist, that is a hard and fast rule of the world, the
Yeah,
law of equivalent exchange. But that doesn't seem to be the case for this. It's just like randomly for this particular use of her magic, she has to be willing to give something up, and that I don't like. I don't
yeah,
agree with because. Tabitha was doing magic. Hecuba was doing all that fucking magic. Nobody was having to give up a goddamn thing,
yeah,
you know. So it just, I don't love that that's not a hard and fast rule for all of the magic. If it were, I would be like, oh hell yeah, I love that because it raises the stakes.
yeah.
You can't just be doing magic. But anyway, the price she must pay, y'all can already guess what the price is. What's the price, Eric?
She has to eat a full tomato soup cake. Um,
Horrible. The worst thing you could possibly imagine. She had to eat that whole damn cake. No, she has to give up Miguel.
yeah,
It's to give up the love of Miguel. The tree says you must give him up. And she wavers, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, this fucking tree's just kind of talking to me. I don't know you, bro. Like, is this real? Whatever.
yeah,
But eventually she says she'll do it because she doesn't want everybody to die. Because, like, of course, yeah. Miguel's not even
yeah,
that great. Miguel's not even that great, and you were gonna lose him anyway. He was gonna die if you didn't save him.
yeah,
Um, so she decides to do it, and the tree tells her to summon her powers by concentrating and focusing on the storm to stop it. See that when she was asking how, that's what you could have said.
yeah,
That's what you could have said instead of just saying use your powers. That helps. Oh, concentrate and focus on the storm and focus on getting it to stop. So she starts to concentrate on this storm, and she half-ass tries at first. Like she just goes, she's like closes her eyes, and literally a second goes by, and she's like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. Like a little kid learning how to skate or ride a bike. I can't do
yeah,
it. And the tree tells her that she has to try harder
yeah.
because the tree's like, well, that wasn't your best effort.
The
Give
tree
it
had a
another
little bit
try.
of the tree had an attitude, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and it tells her that she must believe with all of her being that she is able and capable of stopping the storm, of stopping the hurricane. And so then she says, Hear me, mighty wind and rain. Leave us. Spare my friends. Help them swim to safety. And then the storm just stops. Just stops. And it's like,
It was
okay,
yeah.
girl, magical girl. Okay. Sailor Moon. All
Yeah.
right.
She
All
would
right.
never turn her back on her friends.
Always there to defend. She is the one on whom we can depend. She is the one named Taylor. No, I was trying to say Charity. I was trying to say Charity and Taylor came out instead
Yeah.
of, I was trying
You
to do
were doing so good.
Charity Moon. She is the one. Charity Moon. Yeah, so
And then Fluffy can be her black cat. Um yeah,
her
it
Luna.
let me again just the the tree was an asshole at some point, and just first of all the tree knew everything about Charity, so we are led to believe that mother nature, specifically mother nature, is an interconnected network of systems, so that maybe one tree from harmony told another tree that told another tree all the way to Warlock Island all of their business, or that mother nature is this entity that exists within the world of that you have evil, you have good, and you have mother nature. So that was interesting to kind of consider. But yes, it is the fact that she must give up Miguel. And it led me to think, like, you know what? I have such respect for Greta Thunberg, but if she had to promise that she would not be happy in love to save our Earth, then I don't put that on her. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I
Bring
mean,
that up. I want Greta
here's
Thunberg
what I'm
to
gonna
find
say.
love.
Here's what I'm gonna say about this. Charity can be happy in love. She just won't be able to be happy in love with Miguel. I mean, who marries their high school sweetheart? Some people do. I'm not saying
My
that
mom
doesn't
and
happen.
dad, my mom and dad
Yeah,
did,
and that's beautiful. Some people do, and it's
but
and
it
when
is
they do,
very
it's
rare.
beautiful. But most of the people who do it, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Most of the people who do it get divorced not too far off afterwards. I'm sorry, I had to fix
You
my
called me
camera.
illegitimate like Grace called her kids.
I'm sorry. I didn't call you illegitimate. No, you. I mean, I just think
Yeah, no, I understand.
she can find love again, girl.
But it's also like anyways, they'll talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, the storm stops as quick as crazy as it came, it just goes away that fast and it's gone. And
Yeah,
the kids are pretty much dry as a bone after that.
yeah. It does lead me to wonder because it told her to give up Miguel. It does lead me to wonder if the tree is like evil. You know,
Well, that's
like
what I'm like. I understand a great sacrifice, but I'm like, I don't. That one thing in particular is such an like the whole show is based on whether Miguel and Charity make love, and so for the tree to say you cannot be together, I feel like it's putting its finger on the scales of evil because it's
like
like that's such a the good thing that will happen is that these two are gonna get laid.
yeah,
That's like the whole premise of this show, and for the tree to be like, nah, you gotta give them up.
yeah. So I did have that thought. Like, is the tree somehow being manipulated by the
That's
forces
what
of
I thought.
evil?
Yeah,
But we're thinking too much into it.
I
This,
know. We
like I
are.
said earlier, I'm 560, 570 episodes into this show, and I'm still expecting things from them, and I shouldn't be. I should know better by now, but
Yeah.
but anyway, let's keep going. So the storm stops, and the tree tells her, "Now you must pay the great price. Nature gave to you, and you will have to give back to her. You will live your life without Miguel." Charity is very upset, but she says she'll never regret saving everybody. And then what happens? Do you
Oh
remember?
God, this was so infuriating. All of this happens, and what does she do? She, you know how Pokemon have certain moves, and like, Magic Carp is probably one of the like, right, worst ones. Is it doesn't do anything. It's a fish on dry land. What is Charity's go-to move going to be? Faint.
Yeah, flopping around like a wet fish. Yeah, a fish on land. That's exactly what the fuck she is, just flopping
Yeah,
to the
she
ground.
just boom faints, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I get like, no, I'm not gonna give it.
No, no, don't give it. Don't.
Because I
Nope.
was gonna
And
say,
hesay, here's why. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say. Go ahead and say
I
what
was
you
gonna
were
say
gonna
like
say.
Tabitha and Hecuba, like they make it sound like when they use their powers, it takes unless like they're trained witches, right? So I'm like, maybe if you use your powers, but all she did was say, "Mighty rain, stop," and it was like,
And And it would be one thing if she did it and like was doing something like
Yes, that we
stuff was
saw.
happening
Yes.
and then immediately passed out.
Yeah.
But that is not at all what happened.
No.
She did it. She said her little spell. She stood there. She looked at them. She contemplated what her life is going to be without Miguel. She talked to the tree for a little while. And then she just fainted out of absolutely nowhere. Like she didn't even go like, I feel like
Yeah.
I don't feel so good. Nothing. She just
No,
fell.
she just fell. Yeah, it was
And
weird.
so she fell. Meanwhile, everybody's looking for Charity. Like they get out of the water. They're like, and of course Miguel's like, we have to find Charity. And of course Kay is the first one to see her, and Kay is hilarious, y'all.
She she
Kay
eavesdrops on her talking to the tree.
I wouldn't even call it eavesdropping. What happens is is walking up upon this scene, and she is stopped in her tracks by a crazy person talking to a tree, right? Like if you're walking along and you see somebody talking to a tree, you might stop and
Yeah.
contemplate, do I want to walk any closer to that person? No.
Yeah.
So she stops and sees from a distance. So she doesn't even hear what the tree really said, I don't
Yeah,
think.
no.
Or what, oh no, she didn't hear, she didn't think the tree was alive. She just saw Charity talking to the tree.
Yeah.
So I don't think she necessarily heard what Charity was saying to the tree. She just saw that Charity was talking to the tree, and then
Yeah.
she fell. And Kay's face was hilarious. I think it was my face. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
like this when I was looking at it from Kay's angle. I was just like, yeah, she looks.
She was just like
Yeah.
very like it looked so real. The reaction was so real because she really looked like maybe at that point the actor was like, this soap opera man is fucking weird.
Yeah, yeah, she's contemplating her own real life. No, so Charity falls over. Kay doesn't like obviously doesn't immediately go to like help her, but the kids come immediately and see her, and Miguel rushes over to her. They wake her up, and guess what? Surprise, surprise,
Her other
surprise,
famous move.
surprise, surprise,
Surprise!
surprise, surprise, surprise. The bitch doesn't remember shit.
That's another famous move of Charity's is not remembering the events that just took place.
She don't remember anything. So the kids bring her to. She doesn't remember a damn thing. And Kay looks at her and says, you really don't remember anything? Because Kay is like wanting
I'm
to hear what she has
I
to say about the talking to the tree.
Yeah, and I think also just fed up. Like, how do you forget everything?
I would be sick of her. I
Yeah,
would be sick of her, sick to death. I'm sorry that you have this thing going on with you, this debilitated, but you can't ever remember anything.
yeah.
Take your 51st dates as to a therapist, a psychologist.
I know
Like
this
you,
is not. I know this is not how it works, but maybe amnesia runs in her family. Like,
it's hereditary
yeah,
on the
50,
Standish side.
51st dates ass is pretty iconic.
That's what she reminds me of. She can't remember anything
Hi, I'm
ever.
Charity. Hi, I'm Charity.
So so she wakes up. Kay says, you really don't remember anything. She says, well, I do remember something, but it's crazy. Like it can't be. And Miguel's like, no, tell us what it is. She says, well, I remember the tree telling me to do things.
Sounds funny. What kind of things, Charity?
The tree telling me to do things. It told me I had the power to stop the storm and save all your lives. And Miguel asks if he's like, "Are you the one who stopped the storm, Charity?" Kay doesn't believe it, but it
But the
like,
kids shockingly make it make sense because
well, and it
Ross
does make sense.
yeah,
It
Ross is
makes
like,
as much sense as
no.
anything else.
Yeah, Ross, who is like science, 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 is like, you know what? I think obviously with everything that we've seen over the years, like magic has to exist because there's no other way to explain how this storm just stopped.
Yeah, and
So I
yeah,
was
it's
impressed by that. At least
it's
that they were like, okay, Charity, you're the answer.
yeah, she is the answer.
Yeah.
And but it was funny because Kay isn't going for it. Kay's like, oh, now she's gonna take credit for stopping the hurricane by talking to a tree, like quietly to Simone, right? It was just
That was good.
the snark was top notch. I
Oh yeah,
loved
it was
it
very good.
because in any other situation, somebody says that Yeah,
Nope.
no, who would listen to that? Who would believe that you would be shunned, by your friend
Yeah.
group if you're talking like that.
Again, I love all the bad stuff gets put on to Kay, and all the good stuff gets put onto Charity. I'm like, don't
Yeah.
you think she has powers? Like we've seen her have powers. Like, come on. But
But it does make sense. So the kids are like, yeah, we saw the fucking warlocks. We were in those caves. We saw, like, fine, sure, okay, fine. Tabitha is hiding with Timmy on like some behind some rocks, and she overhears this whole conversation, and she starts to worry. And this is just a little like note. She starts to worry that Charity is coming into her powers,
mhm,
and so just that's what's going on with Tabitha.
yeah,
Then Hank and TC. Oh, Hank and TC finally show up and are told that Charity stopped the storm. I think Kate. Does Kay say no? Kay says it later. Kay
yeah,
says it later. But
yeah,
yeah, they're told that Charity stopped the storm. Then they all just sit around a campfire. Go home.
yeah. They are obviously like talking about like what just happened.
To talk about it on the boat.
Yeah,
They sit around a campfire and speculate about what happened instead of immediately getting the fuck off this island.
yeah,
Get me out of here. We can do this all back in Harmony
yeah,
or on the boat on the way to Harmony, but let's get thee off this island. So
yeah,
Timmy and Tabitha are listening into this conversation where Charity says that she vaguely remembers that there's a price she has to pay for what she's done,
yeah.
and they realize that it's Miguel that they have to get.
Oh, that
She
was
has to get with
cute.
Miguel, and it was funny because they're like, what could the price be? What could the price be?" And they both go, "Miguel,"
Miguel.
and then Miguel's like, "Did somebody just say my name?"
Oh, I know.
And then that's when they come out of their hiding spot, and Tabitha's like, "Oh, my little precious children, honey. I'm so glad you all made it out. I heard you talking, so that's why I came over, and that's why I said Miguel, I guess. I don't know." So
Yeah,
she joins the campfire, and then she explains everything that happened with Norma, with the warlocks. Like, we're having a very open and honest discussion with
yeah.
TC and Hank about all the
Who
things that have happened.
who are just like kind of like okay. I mean,
No, what irritates me is that TC says warlocks and axe murderers. This is all too hard for me to believe. How?
you were in the
How
Hell
is it?
House.
How is it hard for you to believe? You saw the blood on the walls. You saw the murder of crows and the unkindness of ravens. You saw the flames of hell. You saw the giant worm dick demon. You saw Sam Bennett's home, your best friend's house, be sucked to hell. And yet somehow I'm sorry guys, I find this all a little hard to believe.
He's
How
like,
how do you find why? Do you find it so hard to believe? That doesn't make any sense to me. And also, especially considering the storm really did just stop out of absolutely
yeah,
nowhere. And that's not
yeah,
hurricane. And like I said, like a few weeks ago, it wasn't just one storm, y'all. It was like every storm in the world.
yeah,
It was every storm in the world is the worst storm you could ever imagine, and it just ceased to be anymore. That's not how storms work. But he still can't find it. TC shows up just to annoy me.
yeah,
He comes out of his hiding place, out of his murder shed, just to be annoying.
yeah.
But anyway, he says it's all too hard to believe, and then they finally head off to head back to Harmony. But that's when Norma pops out and she says
Oh,
nobody's going
yeah.
anywhere, and she says she's gonna kill Tabitha and her doll. And then this was hilarious, y'all. I rewound this probably 3 times. I was cracking up. So Norma comes out. Nobody's going anywhere. I'm going to kill Tabitha and her doll. And Tabitha grabs Reese,
Yes.
pulls him in front of her, and exclaims, "You'll have to kill Ross to get to me." You'll have to kill Ross to get to me. I'm sorry. I'm doing it like a rickety old pirate. I don't.
Oh no.
But it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. It was so fun. Oh, I had tears, real
Yeah.
tears. It was so funny because
Yeah.
that's hilarious. She fucking hates Reese.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You'll have to kill Ross to get to me. Like, typically when something like that happens, somebody steps in for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you'll have to get through me first. But she's like, no, you'll have to get through him.
Yeah.
Get to me. Oh, that y'all, that was so funny. It was I can't. Oh, I know I've been like slacking on the social media, and honestly, I'm saying this now like I'm going to clip it, but it is also Thanksgiving week, so I'm probably not. But but I will try. That's one
Yeah.
I definitely want to clip. It was so funny. So then, as she's like coming in with her hatchet, which she's been, it's crazy to me because she's been so careful about trying to get them alone.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's just like, I'm going to commit a murder in front of absolutely
Yeah.
everybody. But TC and Hank grab her and pull her back and take her hatchet. And she says she's just trying to kill the witch. And she says, Tabitha's a witch and her doll is alive. And I've got hard proof. And TC says, "Well, Tabitha's eccentric, but she's harmless."
Yeah.
Uh, Reese starts
It's
to lay out
Reese
all
that
his
helps this
reasons.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, Reese is excited that somebody else is on his side for once. And so he starts laying out all his reasons for why Tabitha's a witch. Oh, remember when this happened? Tabitha was there, this, da, 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 whatever. We all remember all the things. Or maybe you don't, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's all silliness. So then Simone prompts Kay to, oh, that's what it is. Because he says he blames her for bringing evil to Harmony, like Father Lonigan said somebody
Yeah.
would, and that's why the Bennett home had the flames of hell and was sucked to hell. And that's when Simone prompts Kay to say something, considering Hell House was all actually her doing,
Yeah,
right?
because she's feeling bad. Kay does visibly look bad, like she feels bad for Tabitha being accused for this stuff. Because she even in her head, in her own thoughts, she's like, "That wasn't Tabitha. That was Hecuba. That was all her that did this. This is not Tabitha." Which again, I'm wondering, has Kay Kay still thinks Tabitha is not a witch? I mean, like after
Yeah.
all of this, she still is like, yeah, she's just a kooky old lady.
She also doesn't really believe in Charity's powers either. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and
It's
so,
so funny to me, like because I remember that in one of the episodes where Timmy was eavesdropping between Hecuba and Kay. That when Hecuba's like, "Why first I have to take out the trash," so she takes the doll and throws it out there. To me, right away, that'd have been like, okay, why does this witch not want that doll in this house? But it was again, look what I'm doing, trying to justify.
trying to
Yeah,
make it work, make it work. So yes, Kay
she
steps
still
up for
speak up.
Tabitha a
Yeah,
little bit. To Kay's credit this week, she steps up multiple times in
or
defense of
Tabitha.
Tabitha
Yeah.
this week, and this is the first time. She steps up and she says, "You remember when we were learning about the Salem witch trials and how they were burning innocent people, which is true. They never found that one
Yeah.
witch."
Yeah, they were exonerated hundreds of years later,
They were
but
just murdering women,
yeah.
um gruesomely. But anyway, but she says, we don't want to be like that. Like, let's not. And basically TC and Hank say, let's save this for later. Let's put a pin in this. Let's head off. So that's when they finally get off the island, and they go up and end up at the hospital, where Kay is feeling regretful of her actions on the island. She says she feels bad for sabotaging their escape attempt. See, I knew my girl was going to come around and say
Yeah.
sorry at least a little bit. She says she feels bad, especially hearing that her dad almost died. So they get to the hospital and are brought up to speed on what's going on with Ivy and how Ivy got struck by lightning helping Sam. And that really shakes Kay
Yeah, because
up.
she sits there and goes, "That easily could have been my dad trying to get to me." I mean, yeah, like your uncle too. Like everybody was out there trying to get to you all.
Yeah,
Uh,
because they explained this beacon that it's a
yes,
navigation beacon, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, because that's
They
the
didn't make it
first
very
time hearing of
clear.
it.
Yeah, they didn't make it very clear from what they were doing. But yes, if it wasn't for that, then they wouldn't have been able to find where they were or
Right,
whatever.
or get out to the island
Yeah,
because they wouldn't have clear navigation
yeah,
signal. So, yeah, so she's feeling very regretful of her actions on the island. And she says she's done thinking about only herself. She says, I won't do bad things again. No guy is worth putting my family in danger. Not even Miguel. Yes, girl.
Good for him.
Yes. That's growth. We love to see it. I know you're not going to stick with it, but we love
But
to see it.
yeah, at least her conscience is alive and well.
And that's what makes Kay such a likable
Yeah,
character,
yeah, because
right?
we understand why she does the things she does, and then at least she holds herself to some sense of accountability from time
Yeah.
to time.
The tones on tone from time to
Mhm.
time. She yeah. So and right now we're on an upswing with our dear Kay. So meanwhile, Sam starts talking to Tabitha because Reese is like saying Tabitha's a witch. Everything that happened on the island is her fault. And Sam tells Tabitha, it doesn't really matter to me if you're a witch. That's not a crime. It's not against the law. But, however, comma, if I find out that you had anything to do with harm coming to my family, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life in a prison.
My
Is
eyes rolled too many times for this. It really pissed me off.
he
Um,
still ain't found Crystal's killer yet. So he needs to shut the fuck up. Really. If we're gonna really be real.
that was a great callback. That was a great callback.
You don't even know that your own brother is a criminal.
And so, yeah, and some people are going to defend, or it's going to come out to light, like some of the things Tabitha's done. But I'm like, you're talking to the person whose house you are living in right now, and also Tabitha, just say, is that a threat, police chief? Is that a threat, police chief Bennett?
Yeah. But you know what? Tabitha doesn't want
No,
or
she knows
need
that.
any more smoke at the moment.
Yeah, exactly, because all eyes are on her because of Ross and because of Norma. Uh,
Yes.
they basically, and this was the fun part that I was like, I'm telling you right now, when LeTara and I talked, I said, hey, these episodes are good because we have a full on witch trial in the hospital.
Ridiculous. Reese brings Norma in to prove that Tabitha's a witch. She's like, I have somebody to back me up now. She's seen Tabitha do witchcraft, and she's seen the Timmy doll being alive.
We get
And
extras who provide testimony, which was shocking to me.
yeah, so Reese starts talking about all the things that makes him believe that Tabitha is a witch. And then he says, and this I knew exactly where this was going the minute he brought Norma in, but he
Oh yeah,
says, and Norma, a nice, normal, nature loving person, is here to back me up. And it's like, oh, is she nice and
yeah.
normal? Okay.
And I think
Uh,
it's at that point where Norma like slaps him on the back and he goes flying. Like
I don't remember, but
they
yeah.
show her strength a lot.
I
Um,
I remember
throughout.
at one point he grabbed her and she like gave him a look and
Oh
he
yeah,
like
yes,
got off of her.
yeah,
Like he was putting his arm around her and she was like, get the fuck off of me.
yeah,
So then Sam reiterates to Reese, being a witch is not a crime. It's
yeah.
not a crime. And then the kids also step up for Tabitha. All the other kids step up and say, actually, Tabitha was the one who sacrificed herself so that we could get away from the warlocks.
Which leads me to believe that maybe they heard her say, "Take me, like take me, let the others go." I think
Yeah.
maybe they might have heard that as well,
Yeah.
even though we were focused on Timmy on that point.
And then Sam does his Sam thing where he's like, what are we even doing? You know, there's no such thing as witches. Ha 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 ha. And then that's when Norma steps in and says she's witnessed Tabitha practicing witchcraft, seen her doll alive, and she has another witness who will back her up 100%, a respected businessman in the community. This excites Reese
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
beyond measure, right?
And I
He's like,
just want to
yes.
I just want to point out this little itty bitty thing is that when Norma meets Sam Bennett, she extends her hand to him and they shake, and after they break away from the shake, Sam grabs his hand and is like, "Ah, like it."
Oh, I love that you caught that because I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
catch that at
Norma's
all.
hand grip hurt Sam.
I
And
bet.
I thought that was a good, yeah.
I bet. So yeah, she says she's got another witness that's gonna back her up 100%. So then other townspeople start to gather. One
Yeah.
comes in and is like, I saw a glow coming from her house one time. Then a little girl is like, yeah, and her little doll, made my ice cream go into my face one time, and we get a little flashback from all the way the first episode
Yeah, I
where
was shocked.
ice cream is being dripped on Timmy by this little girl at the fair, and he knocks the ice cream, like hits her arm so that she puts the ice cream all the way into her face and smashes it into her face. And then another one
Timmy
comes in.
Timmy was like, "Oh, I knew that come back to bite me."
He did. And then another one comes in and says, I can't remember what it was. It was something. But yeah, they all had their own. He said, I read my ancestors' diaries and they burned a witch at the stake named Tabitha Lennox a long time ago. And
To which Tabitha responds, "Hey, I've told you all. Tabitha is a family
family
name,"
name.
and I
Yeah.
thought that was cool to just. She
And
had,
also, I don't give a fuck what your family diaries say because those people were burning innocent people. We already established that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
So
Kay said
so
that. Yeah,
actually you probably owe Tabitha some reparations.
yeah, yeah.
Hello?
And I
Like,
gotta applaud Tabitha for being a 300-year-old witch to be able to keep all your lies in check, right? Like to keep and to be able to constantly justify your eccentricities.
mhm.
Yeah, like to constantly do that because Reese is like, you won't let us in the basement. She's like, I'd rather have a leaky pipe than a axed up door. Like she continues to have like, oh, why were you in the tree the night the Bennett's house went down? She's like, because I was scared as fuck and I thought my house was gonna die to go to hell too.
Yeah.
So she kept coming up with things to try to justify. They talked about the mushrooms, her eating the poison,
Eating the
well,
grass.
eating the
Yeah.
grass for her digestive system. Like they brought up a lot of the old things that they've caught
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, and she, I mean, gave them the exact same excuses she had given them before. So,
Yeah,
then Kay stands up for Tabitha again, and she says Tabitha has been nothing but nice to us. She's even letting our family stay with her, live in her house. She's been nothing but gracious and nice.
and she
Reese
saved
then
us.
starts. Oh,
Saved us.
what?
Yeah, and she just saved us over
Right,
there.
and she just saved us.
Somebody called her the best chaperone in the world.
Did they really? I
I
missed
think
that.
one of them, Miguel or Jessica, one of them said something like Tabitha.
Probably Jessica.
Yeah,
I could see Jessica saying that.
yeah,
Um, so then Reese tries to incite a riot at the again. That is a crime. That
yeah,
is a crime. He
yeah.
starts to chant. What's he
Kill the
chant?
witch or something.
Witch free harmony.
Yeah, witch free.
Witch free. We want a rich witch free harmony. Sam very quickly quells this. And then he asks Norma to produce her witness. He's like, "So you say you have a witness who's seen this?" Which, if honestly, at this point, Sam, why are you
Gonna
engaging
believe.
in this? Why are we doing this? You already explained that this isn't she. If she is a witch, it's not a crime. So why are you even engaging in this? But anyway, I guess to put it to rest, I don't
Yeah.
know. So he um tells her to produce her witness. And she, of course, we can all say it together. She takes out her father's skull and
Yeah.
starts talking as her father and her father's like, "Yes, I saw the witch. That Tabitha Lennox is a witch, and I've seen her doll come to life too. And she separated my body from my head, and my buttercup has been trying to get vengeance for me.
Yeah.
Ah." Yeah, like we knew exactly what was gonna happen. Reese is deflated
Oh, it's
entirely.
so good.
He says,
It's so delicious.
I'm never gonna live this down.
And
No, you're
the
not.
close up on Tabitha and Timmy, they are such like vindication. They just are like Tabitha's just sitting there glowing because she's like, "Oh, thank God she brought up no her father. Like this is done. It's
Yes,
over." And it
she is
ends.
triumphant. She
Yeah.
is triumphant. At this point, Sam and Eve
Oh,
trick Norma. Sam's like, "Oh, Norma, I want to talk more to you about this and your witness, of course, but we can't do it here. We need to go to a quiet room." And she's like, "Oh, yes, of course, of course. We need to don't want her listening in on our plans and da da da." And so he's like, and this is Dr. Eve Russell. And she's like, yeah, I'm just here to help and listen. And we all want to hear about this. And she has an orderly with her. So obviously they're carting her off to the asylum, to the,
Yeah.
not asylum, but the psych ward of the
Yeah.
hospital. So she's locked away for for at least a little while.
We do.
Isn't that where she meets Edna?
This is this is where I'm like, I do think this will be the last we see of Norma for a good long while, but I do think that this is not the last time we see Norma. I know she comes back because I know Norma and Edna. For those of you who are not familiar yet, Edna Wallace will be a major character in later seasons. But yes, Norma will return. But her exit was so good. They have her in a straitjacket. She I mean it, and they're playing the kooky Tabitha Timmy chase music in the background where Tabitha and Timmy are sitting there, and they basically do like a little like ha ha, like
Mm-hmm.
they do it again to her. They it was I cheered, I laughed so hard when Norma was talking like her father in front of all of Harmony, Reese being like just deflated like you said, and Tabitha and Timmy being able to finally like no
Yeah.
warlocks, no Norma. They
Yeah.
can breathe a little bit now. And it was
Yeah.
just together, the two of them. I did pull that clip because I'm going to turn it into a GIF. Tabitha and Timmy put their hand to their nose and kind of wave, haha, to
Yeah.
Norma. And it's really, really cute. So Norma
Uh,
is, I think that's the last we've seen of Norma
for
for
now.
now. Um,
Only for now. So yes, Reese begrudgingly apologizes to Tabitha. And so now let's talk about Charity. Charity has a conversation with Grace about the tree incident. And I'm going to speed run this a little bit.
oh, yeah.
Charity tells her that everything that she remembers, but then she says, and I feel like the tree told me I have to give something up, but I can't remember what it is. Um, and she just knows it's really, really important. Grace asks her, well, what's something you couldn't live without? And that's when Charity realizes, oh my goodness, I gave up Miguel's love. And then she starts to like spiral. She's like, but I love Miguel and we love each other. We've been talking about getting married. What am I going to do? It's like, girl, you 16,
Yeah.
15.
No, I know that shocked me. The like we're supposed to be getting married and having kids already. I'm like, whoa! Like she specifically, yeah. Like it was. It's a far. It's one thing for maybe even Teresa. Like I don't even think Teresa should be thinking that like that far. But like at least I don't know. I feel like she might have lived a little bit more than
Well,
Charity
Teresa's
did.
out of high school at the very least, you know?
Yes, yeah, but it just jumped. And then Grace brought up what we brought up. She was like, I don't think it sounds very fair that this tree would ask you to give up Miguel. Like that doesn't sound right. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. It doesn't sound right to me either, but that's what the tree said.
Well, and Grace tells her, don't worry, true love can never be lost. And Charity asks her, like, do you really believe that? Is that really like two people who love each other will never be separated? And so, of course, that speaks to what's going on in Grace's life with David and Sam and Ivy and all of that. Um, and then Charity starts like freaking out a little bit more, and Grace tells Charity about her. I'm sorry, no. Charity tells Grace about her other premonitions. That's what she starts getting worked up because she's like, and I thought I had a premonition about Sheridan and Luis's boat blowing up. I don't know if Sheridan's okay. I had a premonition about Teresa. I don't know if she's okay. And she's going, I just want them to stop. And I will say, I do feel for Charity. I do. I know I talk really badly about her because she's like an annoying character,
Yeah,
but to see her saying, I'm getting these visions, and all of them are horrible. It's never anything nice. It's always something horrific and I can't control it. I just want it to stop. I really did feel for her.
yeah,
I did also write a lobotomy would help, but
yeah.
that's not nice,
Well,
Tara.
that's so Charity. It's the future she can see. It's so
The
mysterious to me.
It's so horrific to me. It's horrible. But so then they pray. Grace is like, let's. I know our premonitions are always bad. Let's pray. And so they pray for something good to come from their powers and show them a sign of how their powers can be used for good. And then we get a light ball. We haven't seen a
Yeah.
light ball in quite some time, but we get a ball of light that appears in the hospital, and then it goes out and it finds the ocean. So let's that we're gonna that light ball's gonna come up again. So let's move on to troubled marriages. Um and we'll come back to the light ball when we
Yeah.
get to the next story. So that's it with magic. Anything you want to add with that with magic?
It was just fun. It was
It was a lot of
passion,
fun.
peak passions, a talking tree, Tabitha and Timmy running around, a witch hunt,
A
witch
literal
trial.
witch hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was so good. Everybody did great. Again, I love I know we joked about too much Norma, but she understood the assignment, she did it, and that's why she's a great character actress, that woman. She just
Yeah,
runs around.
it's only too much normal when when all they give her to do is run around going, "I'm gonna get you." Ah. Like yeah, it's too much normal. But when they give her shit like this to
Oh yeah.
something to do,
Yeah.
truly something that progresses the story some, or at the very least is truly comical. Because I think they think
Yeah.
like the slapstick stuff is so funny, and it's not.
Yeah. No, but
After a minute, it's funny the first time, but it's not so funny the 30th
yeah.
time.
Well, when I look back at my acting career and the roles that I've played and the things that it's asked me to do, I've had to do some weird stuff, but never have I had to hold up a skull and act like both myself and my dead father here.
Yeah.
And in front of the town, right? It's one thing to do it by yourself on a camera, but now you're doing it and you're getting all this energy of people looking at you crazy. Fun
Yeah.
stuff. Fun stuff.
All
Uh,
right. So, off with the magic, on with the troubled marriages. All right, everybody. So, Ivy is dying. Poor Ivy. She's laying there. And Eve tells Pilar, they're both in Ivy's little room, that Ivy, we're doing the same thing we did when Teresa was in her motorcycle accident. If everybody remembers what happened when Teresa crashed that motorcycle, where she just didn't have the will to live anymore. Nothing was wrong with her anymore, but she just didn't have the will to live. Now I will say, in this instance, Ivy has been through a lot of physical trauma, and she has surgery. She's been really banged up, so it makes a little more sense than it did for Teresa, because they said nothing was wrong with Teresa at all. She
yeah.
just wouldn't wake up. But something similar is happening with Ivy. So Eve, y'all, Eve is a villain. I know I keep saying, but Eve Russell is a terrible doctor,
This is very unethical.
a terrible friend,
Yeah.
I- and a villain.
Yeah.
Just a general villain. So Eve tells Pilar it may be up to Sam whether Ivy lives or dies. Say what? Say what now, Doctor? Say
Yeah.
what now, Doctor? What do you mean it's up to Sam, the police chief? You're the doctor.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be up to you whether Ivy lives or dies?
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Sam, Grace, and David are in the chapel having an argument. The same argument they typically have, except with the caveat, this new caveat that David has started, this new campaign that David has started, that Sam loves Ivy, never stopped loving Ivy, and
And loves Ivy more than Grace.
yeah, and loves Ivy more than Grace, and that he spent the hurricane with Grace instead of with Ivy. He spent the
Listen.
hurricane with Ivy instead of going to Grace, whom he had no reason to believe was in any danger.
Yeah, well, and last week you put it in my head and it has not gone away. That's all I think about is I'm sitting here thinking about when you said spent the hurricane, like spent New Year's Eve. Like, yeah, this is asinine. It's asinine. And I know Grace isn't falling for it. I mean, to her to her credit, she is just like she was struck by lightning. Like, everyone has to continuously tell David that Ivy was struck by lightning. These are extraordinary
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah. It's like you love Ivy more than you love Grace because you didn't leave her to die there alone in a hurricane. Like,
Yes.
yikes. That's a psychotic thing to say to
Yeah.
somebody. But that's when Pilar comes in and she interrupts and says that Eve is asking for Sam and Ivy is out of surgery. And they, what's his name? Sam doesn't even really say anything. He doesn't act like it doesn't even seem like he's necessarily about to leave. But David is like, and you say you love Ivy. Wait, I'm sorry. And you say you don't love Ivy. What? And you say you don't love Ivy. Like Eve, her doctor, is asking for me. Also,
Yeah.
she could be asking me for a lot of different things, right? I
Yeah.
am the chief of police. She should
Yeah.
be called. She could be calling me for several things.
I
Like
was
I
ready for
have a
Sam
life
to
here.
deck him. I was just, can you just deck him? I mean, just, I'm
He said,
tired.
well, he's like, look at you. You're off to rush to your lover's side. What are you saying? I know my David isn't great either, but
No,
it's
you
the
know,
best I can do.
I love it. I can't, Grace, I make him sound like the
You do a
crocodile.
good Grace. You do. I mean, you do a good one.
You know what I was thinking about? I know this is a tangent, but I really appreciate when Tabitha says Teresa and Ethan, because she doesn't say Teresa and Ethan. She says Teresa and Ethan. Teresa,
Teresa and
there's an
Ethan.
R at the end of it. She's like, oh, poor Teresa and Ethan. Um, yeah, and I love it. So anyway, little tangent, but yes, we got David going in here, and you say you don't love Ivy.
Yeah. And so Sam's about Sam when David says that Sam's like I don't have to go. He's going to stay with Grace. But Grace tells Sam to go. She's like it could be important. Yes, like you said, to her credit, it it could be important. And he tries to take her with him. He grabs her hand and is
Yes.
like let's go together, but she says no, there's something I have to do here first. And then when Sam leaves, she turns to David and she says, how dare you accuse Sam of being in love with Ivy? And she's very reasonable. Like you said,
Yeah.
she says, that lady was struck by lightning. What was he supposed to leave her there?
Trying to help our kids.
Yeah, trying to help our kids. Yes, she tried to help our kids. We owe her something, right?
Yeah.
And she tells him to stop it with this line of accusing Sam of being in love with Ivy. And he continues to the point that this made me very uncomfortable. He's just being so manipulative of
Yeah.
Grace's emotions.
Yeah.
He's saying things and playing on her emotions, knowing that it's breaking her down. And that's not
Yeah.
something you do to somebody you love.
No.
That's how she should know that he doesn't really love her and isn't
Yeah,
really in
he's
love with her.
chipping away at
He's
her. Yeah.
Yeah, he's constantly breaking her down. And
First of all, I
so
also would like I know that she likes him. Like
yeah.
yeah, she likes him because I'm like I would have already been like, "Hey, you know what? I know you say you're married to me, but right now I have a family matter going on right now. Can you go to the bed and breakfast? Give me some space. I need some space." No, she likes she wa- he's first of all, he's not going away, so I'm going to say that he's there. But she could easily be like, "I need some space. Like I need you," but she's not. She
Because if
let
she asked him to go, he would go.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that. He would come
Mhm.
back, but
Yeah.
he if she asked him to go, he would go, and she is not asking him to go.
Yeah.
And well, and she also last week, remember, just before we give Grace too much grace this week, do please do recall that she said that they owe him as much as they owe
Yeah.
Ivy,
It
and
popped
that
in my head too. Mhm.
yeah, and that he's as much of their life as Ivy is, and like so before you're
Yeah.
right, she likes him, she respects him, she wants him around.
Yeah.
So he starts to bring up, he's manipulating her emotions. He brings up the loss of her baby, her miscarriage. What
Yeah.
are you doing? Like I said, that's how you know this man does not love her. He is saying so many things that he knows are just going to bring up the most painful feelings for her and emotions for her. And that why aren't you talking more about y'all's life together?
Yeah.
Why aren't you talking more about what you love about her, your memory? Give her all of your memories. Talk about all of y'all good memories. Make her feel good
Yeah.
about you instead of trying to make her feel bad about Sam. Now, I do understand that this is all a scheme and a ploy, but if I were Grace at this in this moment, when she's been through something so traumatic, and at the moment she's also doesn't she hasn't seen her kids, she doesn't
Yeah.
know if her kids
That's what
are
I was. Yeah.
okay. If I were Grace, it would give me pause on this man. I would really be like, does this man really love me like he
Are we
says he
doing this
does?
right now? That's what it is. It's like I
Yeah.
can't do this right now. This person's about to die. My kids could be dead. Like there's a lot going on, and I don't need to be talking about this right now.
The way he brought up her miscarriage and is like, Ivy is the cause of your miscarriage, and that's because Sam kept a secret from you. It's like, I literally just lived it. I don't need you to recap it to me, first of all.
Yeah.
You weren't here. You don't know anything about it. All you know is the hearsay you've heard from everybody else. I mean, if I'm Grace, right? Of course, he knows everything because of Ivy. But um, because I don't think I need to say this now because we have spoiled it thoroughly. We have thoroughly spoiled it over, like, from the moment David showed up. I
It's
feel like
hard not to.
we thoroughly spoiled it by now. But like, if you don't know by now, if you don't know it by now, David is Ivy's plan to like get Sam back.
Yeah.
So with that information, the things he does make sense. But without that information, if you're Grace, none of it makes much
No.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, he says, Sam's feelings are divided between you and Ivy. I don't doubt that he loves you, but his love is divided between you and Ivy. But I have never loved anyone but you, Grace. I have never loved anyone but you, Grace.
That was
I don't
good.
I
That
don't
was
know
good.
what
Yeah,
this
it got
accent
better.
is.
I like it.
And he just keeps, and I wrote this, he just keeps saying hurtful things about Sam loving Ivy, and that his feelings are divided, and Ivy has always been the thing between them. It's like, no, Ivy just became a thing between them
Yeah.
recently. Um, um, Grace didn't know anything about their past, and when she didn't know, like they say, ignorance is bliss. She was blissful.
Yeah.
She was a blissful bitch. But the truth came out, as it often does. So let's skip over to what's going on with Sam and Eve and why Eve is the ultimate villain. Like, Alistair's bad, but Eve is
This is so unethical what she's about to ask Sam to do. Like,
Eve is terrible.
I get the sentiment. I get the motivation. Like you want to give somebody to have the will to live, but you know full well what's going on with Grace. I mean, like,
But also, you might get the sentiment, you might get the motivation, but where is the science?
yes,
Where
yes,
is the science? You are a scientist.
yes.
Okay, as a doctor, you study in sciences, life sciences. Where is the science behind this? Girl, get out of here. And y'all might be wondering, what is LeTara ranting about? She hasn't told us. Well, let me tell you. Eve comes in. I'm sorry, Sam comes in, and Eve tells him that she's afraid that Ivy won't make it. I'm afraid Ivy's not going to make it unless you give her something to hope for, something to make her want to live. What
The,
could that like, it
the
almost
dick.
felt like she was like, you need to climb into bed with Ivy and fuck her. Like, it really felt like that. Like, sincerely. So she says, that she's afraid Ivy's gonna die. Save her. Oh, she says, and as a friend, I would never ask you to do this, but as a doctor, I have to do everything I can to save my patient. Sure, you do. Worst doctor of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so She says she has to do everything she can to save her patient, and Ivy needs you, Sam. Sam says it would be wrong for me to coax Ivy back to life by telling her I love her. Right, correct. Yes, you have more ethics than your best friend doctor here. Um uh
Also, I want to throw this caveat in here, or just something to think about. I was thinking about this. I'm like, Eve really benefits more if Ivy dies, and well, and I'm
I thank God you brought that up because I wrote that in my notes too. Yes.
like,
Yes.
I was just gonna say, like, in one way, I'm like appreciative of her Hippocratic oath in that she's like, this woman has this secret on me, and if she were to die, that would help me. But she doesn't. She's we don't see that thought process. We don't hear that. But I'm thinking about it because I'm like, she's still hell bent on keeping this woman alive. But
And
then
it's
on the other
ridiculous.
side, she is like, I need Sam to tell her that he loves her to keep her alive. So it's like a weird.
Listen, with you bringing up her Hippocratic oath, she does not give a fuck about that Hippocratic oath, and we all know it. She did not. She didn't. Wasn't keeping her oath to do no harm when she hit Orville with her car. When she sedated him constantly so he couldn't speak, and like she doesn't care. She
Yeah,
does not care about her Hippocratic oath. And I did write in my notes, why wouldn't she just let Ivy die? Why wouldn't she just let Ivy die? Considering if she is doing all of these things
everything she can.
because Ivy is blackmailing her,
Yeah,
then if Ivy dies, doesn't your problem go away? But I thought maybe, and see, this is me giving Passions too much credit. Then I thought maybe Ivy has it set up in some sort of way that if anything happens to her, that like Eve's secrets come out, which that's
yeah,
plausible. I feel like that's reasonable. So I was like, well, maybe that's why she's fighting so hard and doing all these unethical things. That actually makes more sense than her not just letting the lady die.
in an episode a while back, Ivy told a tree Eve's secret, and now that tree now knows.
What's the secret? And she it's the law of equivalent exchange.
Yeah, there we go. That's why lightning struck.
It's the life. This is what you pay. It's the price you pay. Okay, so Pilar. Now we got to talk about Pilar. Now we got to talk about Pilar. I'm sorry. Sorry. I know that's your girl. I know that's your girl. But then Pilar begs Sam to do this. And she says, you don't have to tell her you love her. Just talk about the love you once had. You know what? Fine. I'll buy that, Pilar. Think
Yeah,
that's a reasonable compromise.
but
Just
also
talk
I'm
to
like,
her.
I don't understand if I were Eve or Pilar, but no, because Passions is gonna Passions. Why are we not having this meeting in front of Grace so that Grace is a part of all of this? Well, we know we
Well,
do it because Passions is gonna Passions, and we need some reactions. So, but it's just
yeah.
it was frustrating me the whole conversation because I'm like, why are we having this conversation not in front of Grace, where this
Because
immediately
yeah,
affects Grace?
yeah, because they need the reaction, like you
Yeah,
said. It's passions.
yeah,
So he he says okay. And he sits down at her bedside and he says to her, you have to live. You have to live for the people who love you. After some time, Ivy starts to come around. She's hazy, and she starts to talk, but she says to Sam, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I have nothing to live for. I'm all alone. And then Eve tells Sam that Ivy has lost the will to live, which, like I said, sounds awfully familiar, which is because that's exactly what we did with Teresa. And so then Ivy starts to hallucinate, and she believes that she and Sam never broke up.
oh
And
no,
so that starts to kind of bring her back. And Eve says, "Well, that's not enough, though. Ivy needs to believe that you and she are still a couple. Tell her what it's like to be married to her and raise Ethan as a family. Describe your life together with Ivy as it would have been. Make her feel as if her fondest wish has come true. Tell her how happy she makes you." These are direct quotes, y'all. I'm not making the. This is exactly the shit that like Eve went on for so long, saying like tell, and then she says, "Tell her how much you love her." Okay.
Yeah.
And this is where I wrote, if at this point Ivy is blackmailing Eve, why wouldn't she just let her die? Why would she do all of this?
Yeah. Eve just wrote
Um,
Ivy and Sam fan fiction for him to regurgitate to her.
yep. So Sam is against it at first, and Eve says again, she says, "As a friend, I would never ask you to do this, but as a doctor, I have to do what I have to do to save my patient. I have to ask you." She says, "I have to ask you to do this." No, you don't. And you know what? I can't wait to report you to the medical board. You will be having a hearing. You will be hearing from my lawyers.
Yeah.
And lawyer up, bitch.
Yeah. I
Lawyer up.
yeah, having it's so hard for me because like having been in those situations where you have somebody who's not doing well, you want to keep them. I always try my best to keep their spirits up, and that is a hard thing. If they have no hope, I do think that it's like I appreciate what you're saying in terms of like science versus this other thing. I do think the will to live is very much a thing, and everything. But what you're asking Sam to do is it's not fair. It's not right. It's unorthodox. It's not ethical. It's just like, but I mean, there's other ways to be like, hey, Ivy, you have to live. I mean, like, go the Ethan route. I know maybe what's funny to me is that
Ethan kissed her. No,
huh?
Ethan kissed Teresa to bring her back.
Oh,
Remember?
well, see,
Like,
oh
don't
no,
go
oh,
the
no,
Ethan
I meant
route.
the Ethan route and like say that's what. No, I meant the Ethan route. I'm like, you need to live for your son. He's lost
Oh, okay. Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
Like, you know,
Her son, her four children. She
oh
has
yeah,
four
that's right.
children.
Look at
This
me
lady has
being.
four children, and she doesn't. And she keeps saying, "I have nothing to live for." I'd be so offended. No wonder your kids don't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
So, but like, I understand what you're saying about like saying things to people to keep their spirits up, and
yeah,
it's tough and it's hard, but you want to keep them. You don't want them to give up. And I totally agree. But you are not a doctor.
yeah,
Eve is a doctor, and that's what she's telling. It would be different if Sam came up with this idea by himself, but Sam did not come up with this idea by himself. He's being pressured to do this by a doctor.
yeah.
So
Have
that's
you ever
my issue.
watched The Good Doctor? This shit happens all the time. The doctors like literally tell the patients how they need, like what they need to do in order to get people to sign paperwork and all this shit. And that's pretty much all The Good Doctor is.
Oh, I watch Grey's Anatomy. That's my one doctor
On
show.
your medical show. Yeah, we all have one.
It used to be House. I used to watch House, and
Yeah.
I loved it. But then I made the switch. I never even finished House. I made the switch over to Grey's Anatomy and never turned back. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, so Sam says he'll do what he can to save Ivy. And then Pilar and Eve leave to give them some privacy, a little privacy. And he grabs her hand and he tells her he's never going to leave her, and how they have a beautiful life together and all their dreams have come true. Um, I have a David note in the middle of this, but that's a mistake. Um, so he's telling her all these beautiful things. Actually, no, that's not a mistake. Sorry. He's telling all these beautiful things. Meanwhile, David and Grace have parted ways from the chapel. Grace is on her way, obviously, to Ivy's room. And David stops and has a little chat with Eve and Pilar and says he's looking for Grace. Why are you looking for Grace? Y'all literally just came from the same place and walked in the same direction.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're looking for Grace? He's an
Yeah.
idiot if he can't find Grace.
Yeah. I think it's under the guise that he really upset her, right? Like he upset her with everything that he was saying and stuff. But
Maybe, yeah.
yeah.
So he's looking for Grace. He says he just wants to make sure she's okay. And that's when Eve has a little snappy comeback and she says, You she has the nerve to have an attitude after what she's done. She says, she says, Grace will never be okay as long as you're in harmony. Grace will never be okay as long as you are sabotaging her marriage, Eve,
Yeah.
on purpose. And she says, let her get back to Sam and her family, and she can shut the fuck up as far as I'm concerned, because she really does not have a leg to stand on, not whatsoever. But then he compares himself to Ivy and says he will always be a part of Grace's life, and it's like, it's not the same.
It's
It's
not.
not the same.
She doesn't
Um,
know you. I'm sorry. Like, it just pisses me off that he can try and pull that crap when I'm like, she has given you no inkling that she knows who you are. That would to me already be like, I think I'm done. I think I if you have questions for me, I'm here. I'm leaving. But we know why he's there. So
And then we get more proof that this man could possibly be a violent criminal because he starts getting angry. Like
yeah,
he starts getting mad, saying like, that he's taking everything so personally
yeah,
because they say like it's not personal. He's like, how the hell isn't it personal? It is personal to me. She's my
believe me.
wife.
Yeah,
He's going off. He says, I came here and I just keep getting slapped in the face figuratively by Grace and by her friends who don't believe that she should be with anybody else. Like, what do you want from these people? They just met you. What do you want? What do you expect? And he's like, put yourselves in my position, in my shoes, see it from my perspective. Why the fuck should we? Why should we? I hate, like, I understand when you are having an argument with somebody that you love and care about and that you need to take a step back and try and see things from their perspective. But one thing I do cannot stand is when somebody who I do not like if I don't like you and we have issues and we have problems and you have done bad things to me, and or I feel like there's nefarious intent about behind anything you've ever done or said to me, I don't owe you the benefit of your stepping into your shoes and seeing it from your
yeah,
fucking perspective. I don't give a fuck about your perspective.
yeah.
Why should I? Why should I? So
No,
that's what bothered me about this. It's like, why should these people care about your perspective on this? They're not your friends. They just met you. They have no loyalty to you, nor should they have any loyalty to
yeah.
you. But he seems to expect that and feels entitled to some sympathy from these people. You came in and blew up their lives. Why should they care about how you feel? I don't care about your feelings. Fuck your feelings, David.
Yeah.
Fuck your feelings. So yeah, he's getting all upset and getting all worked up. Who cares? Then he says, if I thought that Sam loved Grace as much as I do, I would leave. But I can see that Grace is about to get hurt and I'm going to stick around to pick up the pieces. So let's go over to Ivy's room and see what's going on over there, y'all. Cause it ain't good.
Yeah.
It's not good. So meanwhile, Grace has walked in without making herself known.
I
And
know.
I have conflicting mixed feelings
I
about
have
this.
yep, because I understand it in a marriage you should be open and honest with each other and stuff, but this was a private this could be Ivy's deathbed moment under we don't know.
Yeah.
And these are her last words maybe to Sam and Sam's last words to her.
Yeah.
Um and whether you deny or approve of their love for one another, they still had a child together and this is your goodbye and she's hearing all of it.
Yeah. I feel pretty much the same. I feel very conflicted about it. About whether she should have or shouldn't have gone in and if she should have made herself known when she
Yeah.
went in. But she doesn't. She comes in and she witnesses she walks in on witness and witnesses Sam's little play pretend with Ivy, where
Yeah.
it's so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable for me.
It
He's talking about how beautiful she is. He says, "You're beautiful, just like the first day I laid eyes on you. Remember, I saved you from drowning." That's how he picks up girls. That's how he picks up women. He just saves them from near death experiences.
oh,
I didn't realize that that's how they met. I think I
yeah.
forgot that. So he says, remember, I saved you from drowning. And he says, just like then, you have to fight to live. You have to fight for us, for our life together. And Ivy is like, yeah, like, yes, we have this life. She's in the hallucination. And
Yeah.
then she remembers, wait a minute. No, we never got married. I married Julian. I have nothing to live for. And um and that's what she says. She says the
I'm
truth
still
is
laughing. I'm
she
still
says
laughing at you calling me out when I was like, "What about Ethan?" And you're like, "What about her three other kids?"
she's four children and nothing to live for.
Pretty fancy fox. I'm sorry, y'all. Peace out. God.
ridiculous. Well, you forgot them just like their mother and father have.
Ethan too. I mean, she forgot about Ethan. She's just like, I mean, she said, oh, well, she's out of surgery, so she's in a different state. But she got to talk to the three most important people, and the other three children were not on that list. Pilar was on the list before.
Yeah, she only, in all of this, when she's talking about, like, tell Ethan that I'm sorry, tell Ethan I love him, da da da, she only ever mentions Ethan. God, oh my
That's
God.
heartbreaking.
It's
Can you imagine
heartbreaking.
if she
She's on a
died
death
and
bed.
then they
On
ask, like, they come, do we know what our mother's last words were? Pilar, I love you. That was it.
Yeah.
Or-
Tell Ethan I love him.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness! Like, can you? Oh, I feel so bad for her kids. So, like I said, everybody in this town is terrible
yeah.
parents. So she says the truth is I have nothing to live for, and then I wrote, "This lady is fine. This lady is fine. Like, let's stop this now. Like, I'm done with
Yeah.
this." But they don't stop it. I wish they would have stopped it there, and Sam would have been like, "You do have something to live for," and left it at that.
I will say the acting was very good by both of them in
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah.
Despite the messaging, it was just really pretty and again, I'm always gonna be Team Ivy and Sam. That's the way I was the first time I watched it, and I'm
Yeah.
cementing it. It's always gonna be Ivy and Sam.
Well, here comes the bombshell, y'all. Get ready. Oh, strap in. Strap your pussies down. Because she says, I have nothing to live for. And he says, you are a wonderful, beautiful woman. And at this point, I want to be clear. There's a shift in Sam at this point.
Yes.
Before, it was like he was talking to her, trying to bring her back, coax her back to life by saying, like, these things that were basically lies. We had this life together. And I
Yeah.
think because he was actually lying to her, that he had a little bit of separation from it.
Yeah.
But once he started saying this shit,
Yeah.
it was the world melting away. He's
Yes.
laser focused on Ivy. He says, you're a beautiful woman that any man would be lucky to fall in love with and have a life with. And she says, yeah, any man but you. And he says, well, that's because you didn't come back.
Yeah.
Oh, he says, that's because you didn't come back. I hoped and I prayed that you would, but you didn't. I had to move on. But I never stopped loving you, Ivy, not for a minute. Oh!
I know. I know.
And again, reminder, Grace is listening. Grace is standing there for this entire
And
thing.
good on the actress as well because she is doing what good actors do and is listening and it's all on her face. Everything that he's saying, it's all on her eyes. It's all like you can see her welling up. It's heartbreaking.
It
And,
is, it
and it's
is,
also beautiful. Like I am happy to like we know, yeah, Sam had she come back, it
he,
they would be together. It's all on
here's the
Ivy.
thing.
And I know
Here,
Julian and Alistair and her dad
yeah,
and all that shit, but
here's the thing. We have been building to this exact moment for the entire series,
yeah,
right? Ivy has been constantly trying to get him to say that he never stopped loving her. That has been her main objective.
and he would
She
never
has
do it.
goes on little side quests, but but the main quest has always been get Sam to admit that he never stopped loving me. Get Sam to admit that he never stopped loving. He fucking did it, and he meant that shit.
Oh yeah,
He meant that. I don't care what he says to Grace after this. He's about to lie to Grace.
I think so too. Yeah,
He's about to lie to Grace. Y'all, I wrote
yeah,
damn in my
we
notes
know.
after he says, I
Yeah,
never stopped loving you, Ivy. Not for a minute. Y'all already know that's the name of the episode. You already know. I never stopped loving you, Ivy. Not for a minute. Oh, it was, I like, it was uncomfortable, but I also like, it was, it was like finally,
yeah,
because we've been saying it.
and
We've
we
been
know
saying
it.
it.
We always knew it. Yeah,
Yeah, that he loves her. And we have no I have no issue with it. I have no issue with the fact that he does love Ivy and
yeah,
never stopped loving Ivy, because you don't just stop loving a person. The
yeah,
person is the person, and you love them for who they are. If you love somebody for who they are, you won't stop loving them
yeah.
ever. So, um he then tells her that his heart broke when she didn't come back. Like, I was heartbroken as well, but I had to move on. Ivy says, "You're just saying that because I'm dying." He says, "No, it's true." And she realizes, she sees it. She's like, "Oh my God, it's true. You really." And that's when Grace finally does a gasp. She's just like, like when, how when you're holding back crying or
Yeah.
tears or something because you don't want people to notice, and then you can't anymore. You have to go, that's what she did. And so now Sam runs after her. No, actually, he doesn't run after her. What happens is she gasps. She leaves the room. He doesn't say anything to her. He turns to Ivy, grabs her hand, and tells her, like, I have to go deal with this. That, like, he doesn't immediately run after Grace, as we've seen him do in the past. So he goes out. He tries to explain to Grace. He's like, "Grace, that's not what I was trying to help. Eve told me to do this thing." Like, he couldn't even get it all out.
No,
And before,
she didn't want to hear it.
well, no, she didn't want to hear it. And she says, I know why you said those things, and it tears me apart. It tears me apart. He says, I owe her, and I didn't mean it. I owe her so much, but I didn't mean anything I said to her. Grace says, "Well, it sounds like you never stopped loving her." And that's like where we kind of end it with Grace and
Yeah.
Sam. Later on, David goes into Ivy's room where Pilar is telling her, "You need to give up on Sam," right? Like, they're having that conversation again. But because Ivy's like, "Sam told me he loved me." And it's kind of like when Teresa told, what's her name? Whitney.
Yeah.
Like, Ethan told me he loved me, and and Whitney's like, "Yeah, all right, sure he
Yeah.
did."
Yeah.
But no, it's the same thing. Ivy saying, "He told me he never stopped loving me." And that's when Pilar's like, "No, you, regardless of what he said, like, I was there. Eve told him to do this, and that's the only reason he was saying it." And she was like, "No, no, no, I don't believe that." And that's when David comes in. Which, why is he coming? What are you
Yeah.
doing here?
Yeah.
What business could you possibly have outside of what we know between about him and
Yeah.
Ivy? What business could you possibly have in Ivy's room? Again, it's just
No
also
business.
suspicious.
Yeah.
But that's where we ended with troubled marriages
And
this week.
I
Anything to add?
I was gonna say at some point I think Eve did look at like Ivy's like progress, and it looks like Ivy's going
Mhm.
to be fine. So
No, that's it. I think I missed that note in my notes.
yeah.
But that's what happens when Grace gasps. A
Yeah.
nurse comes in,
Yes.
and she looks at the thing, and she's like, "I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, she's doing great. She's fine.
Yeah.
I'll go tell Dr. Russell." And that's when Grace leaves. That's when he says to Ivy,
Sam's
"I have to go."
Sam's love uh um can remedy lightning strikes, just so y'all know.
And spinal cord injuries.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Tiny
He's
police
got
chief
the
Bennett.
magical love stick. Okay, y'all, it's time to go to Bermuda. Bermuda. Um, they have wheeled a body. I'm sorry.
It's so dumb.
Okay,
Into a
so first
hotel
of all,
lobby.
let me just say, there's no Ethan and Teresa stuff this week. Basically, the only Ethan and Teresa Julian like marriage stuff is that there's multiple conversations, one between Ethan and not Ethan, Teresa and Whitney, one between Teresa and Julian, I think one between Whitney and Julian,
Yeah.
where they all talk about, "Julian, you better get that annulment annulled soon." I don't know,
Get
annulment go
the
rolling.
marriage a marriage annulled.
Yeah, get that annulment right now, and that's fine. That's it. That's all that happens. So everything is basically about Sheridan. So yeah, they wheel a body in a body bag into the hotel lobby. I really didn't like this at all. Cause for
Oh,
why would it be? Why would the body come to the hotel? And I know I said that last week, but this doesn't make, even for Passions,
yeah.
this was sloppy,
Yeah.
like incredibly sloppy. And I guess maybe they just didn't have the money for another
Another
hospital
set
set.
or something. Yeah.
I don't know, but it was so sloppy, and Sheridan deserved better.
Yeah.
Sheridan deserved better. So they wheel her in, and Luis asks to see the body because he doesn't believe it's Sheridan. He's like, "There's no
Yeah.
way it's not Sheridan. I know she's alive. I can feel it." Then the captain guy said, who was like the head of the rescue effort, says that actually her next of kin should do the identification, and that would be Julian, who happens to be there. Julian doesn't want to do it either.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't even. I'm not even gonna go there. Julian doesn't want to do it either. But the captain guy says, well, I think someone other than Luis should make the identification because her body was really beaten and battered. She got stuck in a coral reef, like she's not in good condition, and it could be a really big shock, considering the state of the body. And so Luis is insistent that he wants to see the body. Teresa is the one that stops him and says, do you really want to see her like that? Like,
Yeah.
do you really want your last memory of Sheridan for that to be your last memory of Sheridan? Um, and he says, well, it's not Sheridan. And he opens up the bag and he says, see, it's not her. He sees it and he's like,
Yeah.
no, this isn't Sheridan. And then the captain asks everybody else, is like, could y'all, again, in a hotel lobby.
Yeah.
Ugh,
So
I'm
dumb.
just, I was just so disgusted. He tells everybody else, can you all take a look at her body? Just you confirm, because basically, uh, he thinks Luis is unreliable, right?
Yeah.
And everybody looks and they say, hard to say, can't tell. Her body's too beat up. Like the only thing that we can really say is that she's blonde. Um, and so there's no conclusive proof. Luis says, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call Harmony PD. I'm gonna get her fingerprints. Um, we're gonna get her dental records, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get all that faxed over, and we're gonna compare that against this body. And he believes that he actually seems almost happy. Not happy is not the right word, but he has hope, considering nobody else could positively ID her as Sheridan
Yeah,
either.
they all are very like, oh, I mean, I guess it looks like her. I can't tell. The body apparently doesn't look. It's been, it was racked. It was on reefs, like coral reefs, and
Yeah.
not really shredded up or something.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. When a body
Yeah,
bodies start to decompose pretty much
yeah,
immediately, right?
yeah.
She also, if it is Sheridan, she would have been caught in that blast,
The explosion.
the
Yeah,
explosion, right? So her body would be just in
yeah,
tatters, a mess. And then couple that with sea animals maybe
yeah,
nibbling at her and getting caught in the coral reef, and being beaten and
yeah,
battered by a storm and driftwood and all kinds of stuff. Her body would be in terrible shape,
yeah,
and it would be so bloated from all of the salt water too.
yeah,
It just, she would be hard. I wouldn't be able to look at. Ugh, ugh. Okay.
yeah.
Oh God. Anyway,
Yeah,
let's
no,
move on.
and
It's
yeah,
very somber. It's all very
dark.
dark. It's all very dark. Luis again is adamant that that's not Sheridan. Everybody else isn't so sure, but instead of just waiting for the fingerprints to show up in the record of her teeth, dental record, record of her teeth,
Yeah,
her dental, they just all like start to argue. Again, we're gonna speed run this.
yeah, no, because it's all week worth of this.
Yeah. So I was totally on Luis's side with this. Why wouldn't we just hold off on a funeral and arrangements until we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is Sheridan, and we're not just giving a random funeral, because Julian wants to like have a funeral,
Yeah,
and that we're not just having a random funeral for some random person who is absolutely not Sheridan. Anyway, so meanwhile, Rebecca talks to Julian, and she says as soon as Sheridan's body is identified, they can get married. This lady she's
she's
in
crazy.
rare form this
Yeah,
week, but
no, but she is also, her alert is up. That's the thing. She you can say a lot of things about Rebecca, but the girl knows when something's up, and she knows that something happened between Julian and Teresa, and so she is like, okay, if I don't. if I don't grab him now, I don't get him. So she's like, we got to get married immediately. What has
Yeah.
changed? She also noticed that there's a change of Julian being like, yeah, we'll get married, whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's like, we got to hold off, we got to hold off. So she's very much aware that something's wrong.
Yeah. So she says they have to get married, and Julian tries to dissuade her, and he's like,
How can we get married
this
when,
is my poor sister, my poor
yeah,
sister. Just, and she's like, shut the fuck up. I know you killed
you
her.
killed her?
Remember?
Yeah.
Like, so spare me. Spare
Yeah.
me your false like contrition and sadness. You're not sad, or I'm sure he is a little bit sad, but you don't want to kill her, so you don't get
Yeah.
to be sad. So then Julian later, this was funny. This isn't important. Julian later goes to the bar and asks for a pitcher of martinis. And he's like,
Yes.
you do know how to make a martini, right? And the bartender's like, what's in it? He's like, I don't know. And then he finally just was like, give me a brandy neat.
Yeah.
It
So
was just
cute.
funny of him
Yeah.
asking for martinis. It was a little moment of lightness this
He
week that
almost had
was
the
much
recipe that one time.
very well needed. Yeah, he almost got it
Yeah.
out of little Tim Tim. So he's at the bar. He's contemplating how he's going to manage to keep Teresa as his wife. So that's the little bit of Teresa stuff
Yeah.
that we have going on. They want him to get the annulment done. He's trying to figure out if he can finagle a way to keep Teresa as his wife. Rebecca then pops up to talk about their wedding plans, and then she accuses Julian of avoiding their wedding, and he says, "Well, it's insensitive to get married so soon uh
Yeah.
after Sheridan's death," which is
Very
honestly
reasonable.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't necessarily care about Sheridan, optically it looks bad.
Optics. Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
imagine the tabloids like Sheridan Crane dead, Julian Crane married? Like that's crazy.
Yeah. But of course, Rebecca points out that he's the one that killed her, and she says, "Here's a news flash. If you don't marry me, you're gonna be one sorry son of a crane." And I loved her delivery of that line. Yeah, you know what? I need to clip some of those pieces, those music cues to
Yeah.
use in the podcast. I
That
do.
I had it ready for at some point, and then I was just like, oh no, she's doing a Rebecca line. I have to push it. That's one of my favorite musical cues of the series is whenever something kooky or scandalous happens, and I hope the listeners can hear it, but and it's that Andrea Evans eyebrow raise that like
Yeah.
you're gonna be one dead son of a crane.
Brain. Yes. Yeah, so she's like threatening him. Michael Bluth is threatening me. Sorry, that anytime
Arrested Development.
anytime anybody's like she's threatening, I was like, I think that Michael Bluth is threatening me. So she also ended a kitty. She ended up on a boat that exploded too. I wonder if they got that from Passions. Um, so anyway, um, she threatens him basically and says, if you don't marry me, you'll be sorry. And she says, my point, I'm sorry if it sounds threatening, even though she knows she's threatening him. But my point is, a wife can't testify against her husband, correct? So if Luis decided to investigate Sheridan's untimely death because he got a little bit of a little tip, when you went on trial, I wouldn't be able to tell everybody that you killed your own sister. So yeah, so she's giving, not, I wouldn't even call it a veiled threat. She's outright threatening to rat Julian out to the police if he doesn't marry her, which he basically says to her, so you'll turn me in if to Luis if I don't marry you. And she says, well, Spooky, you will marry me, and it's as simple as that. And she
Mhm.
leaves. So later, Rebecca pops up in the lobby in a wedding gown.
I it
I
too
mean, it's crazy
the
because
audacity.
We just had Sheridan in a body bag in this lobby, and now you're walking through in a wedding gown,
I will
and
say she looks amazing. She
she
looks
looks
really
great.
good.
She looks great. She looks psychotic, but she
Yeah,
looks good.
but everyone's
Um,
mortified. People are like, cannot
what?
believe she's walking around like this.
Yeah, and she says that she and Julian are going to get married right now, even before anything with Sheridan. She's like, I'm going to take him to the chapel, go into the chapel and we're because now she's like on the bandwagon of Sheridan's not dead, even though she truly does believe that Sheridan's
Yeah,
not dead, but she's like going with she's like, I believe Luis. Sheridan's still alive. So why not have a celebration of life and get me and Julian married?
yeah,
So she wants to go and get married right now. So she heads off to the chapel, I think. Is that where she goes?
yeah.
Is it? Yeah, she says
To talk to the
Sheridan's not
justices.
dead, so it's not inappropriate. And oh, that's when she tells him, either you put a ring on my finger tonight. She like whispers this to him. Either you put a ring on my finger tonight, or I'll arrange to have handcuffs put on your wrists, and not the fun kind either. So that's when Gwen tells her mother, she says, this little stunt is tawdry, even for you, mother.
Mm-mm.
Uh, and Rebecca says she doesn't care. She says,
Yeah,
I have to marry Julian. Um, and if I have to do it over Sheridan's casket, I will. I'm going to snag Alistair's one remaining heir.
yeah,
Yuck.
yeah.
Yuck. So Luis then gets the fingerprints faxed over and the dental records that he's been waiting on. And he gives them to the resort doctor to
Yeah.
check against Sheridan's body.
The
It's like
one
we
that
should have
the one that gave Teresa way too many sedatives or like really screwed her over was the
gave
same.
her a sedative and sent her off with a bus boy.
Yeah.
Like instead of taking her to her room and then giving her a sedative. Yeah, this doctor. But also beyond that, he's not a medical examiner. He's
Yeah.
not a coroner.
No.
He is not qualified to do and I imagine you need a like a adequate lighting to check to truly examine. Probably like there's some tools, some magnifying tools you need. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just a layperson. What do I
I feel
know?
like the way Passion set it up is that they lifted the sheet and were like confirmed. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's like, oh, she's got an overbite.
yeah,
That's her for sure.
yeah,
I you wouldn't, and the fact that they do this, what, in a conference room somewhere
yeah,
or in one of the random hotel rooms, I don't know. I'm sure the lighting wasn't adequate. I just whatever. He goes and he does it. He comes back, and of course, he says that the records matched. The woman pulled from the scene is Sheridan Crane. Luis is shattered, but
yeah,
then begins to deny that this is the truth, right? He's in denial. He says, I'm a trained police officer. I'm gonna check your report. I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna check the details myself.
yeah,
He goes, he does it, he comes back, he has the same conclusion. He's like, I don't what he says is, I don't think he like did the report again or anything like that. I
yeah.
think he just looked over the doctor's report, I guess, because he says he came to the same conclusion. I don't know. He comes to the same conclusion that it is Sheridan. So I guess maybe he did check her. I don't know. Um, and that's when Rebecca pulls Julian over for a little chat and says it's time to get married. And now that his plan is done and Sheridan is dead, it's time to get married. Julian then calls Alistair to tell him the job is done, the deed is done. And then Alistair tells him to have Sheridan's body cremated so that they can sever all connection between them and Louise. He says, feed her to the flames and let everyone know she won't be coming back this time.
Yeah,
He's sick. He's
it
sick.
yeah, because well also I mean like he's already arranged to have a funeral and he's like how did you Julian's like how did you arrange to have a funeral so fast, and Alistair's like because if she wasn't going to have one it was going to be you, which is so like crazy, but yes they have a which is yeah he didn't care. Again, so then I'm like, who gets? So Julian dies. So you're gonna bypass Sheridan. Then it's Fox. Fox is going to be the next one, but
Yeah.
they don't. Passions isn't thinking that far ahead, and they are not even considering it. It's Julian and whatever. But um, can I tell you all that I have stayed at some nice resorts? I've stayed in some nice hotels, but I don't think I've ever stayed in one that has a chapel equipped with a crematorium. I could be wrong about that.
I don't think that this was at the hotel.
Okay,
There's a crematorium away from the hotel. They talk
okay,
about that we're going to be going to the crematorium.
okay, got it. Because
Yeah.
I was like, this is too much. How does this
Yeah.
hotel have everything? So if that's the case, then I will say that I have never been to a funeral home that has a funeral location, a service attached directly to a crematorium. I was ridiculously shocked by this,
Yeah,
but
this was ridiculous.
yes,
Let's talk about this
yeah,
funeral. So, well, first let's finish up here. Uh, Alistair tells Julian on the phone to go ahead and marry Rebecca, because Julian is lamenting to him like, Rebecca's trying to marry me right now, and Alice is like, why not? Yeah,
yeah,
you divorced Ivy. She knows about everything. It's time to bring her into the fold, so that she's, in, because she's in on all of this Sheridan mess. So then Rebecca goes to the chapel, tells the justice of the peace that she's gonna get married to Julian Crane, which unsettles him. And then so her antennas go up, and she's like, "There's something you're not telling me. What aren't you telling me?" And then he says he can't break Julian's confidence because he would lose his job. And Rebecca says, "I'm his fiance, and I'm just about as powerful as he is. And if you don't tell me what's going on, I will also. You're gonna lose your job either way, because I'm gonna make you lose your
yeah,
job." And so um, he's about to tell her, but that's when Julian has sent Bruce in there to get Rebecca so that they can go to the crematorium to go to Sheridan's funeral together. So Bruce interrupts. Rebecca invites the justice of the peace to the funeral. She says, so that as soon as the funeral service is over, you can marry me and my Pookie. And
that guy is
so
kind of like,
yeah, he whatever, that guy. That
yeah,
guy. So then some guys come for Sheridan's body, saying like it's time for her funeral to be held. Luis is against it. He's like, who the hell sanctioned this? And Julian's like, I did. Father wants it done. We need to get this whole unpleasantness over with as soon as possible,
yeah,
basically. But Julian says, I'm her legal family. I'm the only one who has any rights to her. And Ethan then like defends Julian in a little bit.
yeah,
He says to Louise, you know what? Sheridan was happy here. Why not bury her where she was at her happiest? Like, the two of you were so happy here. She was, not as happy in Harmony, basically. She's got a lot of bad memories of Harmony. This is what the subtext I took from it. He didn't say
yeah,
that. No, but that's the subtext I took from it. Like,
yeah,
why would we bury her in Harmony, considering she has so many awful memories of Harmony? Bury her here on the island where she was with you, and was at her happiest. Luis agrees. He's like, you know what, you're absolutely right. So then they go to the funeral home. Rebecca shows up in that wedding gown. You'd think she changed, but no. She's like, "Oh, I have this veil." So
yeah.
she has on a white wedding gown and a black veil, and so she's like, "See, voila, I'm ready for a funeral."
Which also, I don't know
Um,
how all these people had clothes for the funeral already, but they did.
yeah, I guess they went shopping. Yeah, I'm gonna assume. I,
It
I'm a
happened so fast. This was just so crazy how they got to the
It
funeral
did.
so
They
fast.
did this so fast, especially considering how slowly and how
Yeah,
much Passions will drag things out.
yeah.
The fact that they
Also,
went from seeing Sheridan's body to cremating her and doing
yeah,
her funeral within the span of an episode is unheard of.
Also, I want to note that even though cell phones are not at the abundance that we have them now, nobody in Harmony knows what's going on, and nobody on Bermuda knows what's going on in Harmony. So, like,
Right.
nobody knows Sheridan's dead. Nobody knows Ivy's been struck by lightning.
Yeah, so
We have two
next
different
week
worlds happening. Yeah.
next week we can all brace ourselves for a shit
Yes.
ton of recap. Because everybody's going to be bringing everybody up to speed. Actually, you know what? There's the episode. There's
Yeah.
next week's episode right there. Everybody just brought everybody up to speed. Which, by the way, let me just announce this: there will be no episode next week,
Yeah.
because it's Thanksgiving week and I'm not
Yeah.
watching Passions this week. So just so you know, this is the last episode for November, and we will be back in December. But Eric won't be back in December, will you, Eric?
I don't think so.
Nope. Eric will be back in
If duty
January.
calls, you let me know.
Eric will be back in January. But anyway, let's finish this. Sorry, I got off. Off track. So, um, Rebecca's yes, Rebecca's shown up as a in her wedding gown. Julian actually is just like, why the fuck wouldn't you have put on a funeral dress?
Yeah.
And he says my sister died. Like he really has a moment of, I think he's starting to really see Rebecca for who she really truly
Yeah.
is, because she came in and she was so sweet and so kind and so nice. She really slid her way in, and I don't think he really recognized and understood just how slimy she
Yeah.
is.
Did she? Because he did say, I don't know if you already said this, but he did say something along the lines of like, "You're kind of like my father. Like I thought my father, yeah,
Yeah, he
bad.
sure did.
You're bad.
And he's starting to realize that Rebecca's worse news than he thought she was.
Yeah,
And I mean, and she's so much
she's a
smarter
great
than he
ally to
is.
have, but a horrible enemy to,
Yeah, she's a
yeah,
bad enemy. You don't
yeah,
want to make an enemy of her.
yeah,
Um, and Rebecca tells him that she can't take his grief, quote, grief, seriously, since she knows exactly how she says, I know exactly how Sheridan ended up in that box.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with Rebecca on that. If I knew what she knows about this whole situation, no,
yeah,
I wouldn't care it a bit about Julian's quote unquote grief.
yeah,
You did this.
yeah.
So,
It was all
you,
on you.
yeah, congratulations, you played yourself. So, everyone, that's when everybody else shows up for the funeral. Luis gives Julian a compliment on the arrangements. He says this is exactly how Sheridan would have wanted it. She would have loved it. Um, Luis then says some beautiful words about Sheridan. Y'all, it's all so sad. I
Yeah,
sobbed. Like I
yeah.
cried, and
He
I
did a great
know
job.
I know that Sheridan's alive. I know Sheridan's alive. I think it just brings up bad thing like feelings,
Yeah.
funerals and things like
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
brings up
But
such
his
bad
acting is
feelings.
so good too. I mean, he looks devastated, but he has his composure. You can tell that there's some tears in his eyes. Ethan does a nice job with his eulogy as well. What did Gwen try and put in there? Did your episode show you? Mine.
I didn't see what she put in there.
Okay. Gwen tried to put something in there. She's sad, for she's not thinking about Ethan for like 5 seconds. She's actually
Yeah.
thinking about her dead friend. So it was
Why'd you
very
say it like that?
after I said it, I her friend who has passed. So it is very sad, and the music makes it very sad too. They have some really pretty underscoring.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it
but
was all so sad.
but what just is flabbergasting is this notion that the Sheridan's body is on a thing up in the air that is a gurney that will basically wheel into a crematorium, and they watch Sheridan's body go into the crematorium and get burned.
Okay, she's in a casket. Let's be clear.
Yes, so
It's a closed casket.
yeah,
So yeah, and you don't realize what it is until it's happening.
yeah, they
It
don't
looks
show
like
it.
a normal
It's
like
out of frame.
funeral
Yeah, it's out
setup.
of frame.
The casket is there. It looks like a normal funeral setup. But before she gets wheeled in there, Luis does. We do get a moment where Luis says that that's not Sheridan's not in that casket. That's not her.
Oh
She's
yeah,
not in that casket. That the body is the body in the yeah the body in this casket is not Sheridan Crane. He says it's her body, but it's an empty shell of the woman that I love. She's lost forever, and she's not coming back. And that is when, yeah, it like rolls almost like on a conveyor belt
Yeah.
into, they push a button and it rolls in, they roll the casket in there. It's like, they don't cremate people inside of caskets.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, her ashes should be done in a moment, like as if she's a cake baking in the oven. It was just odd. It was all so odd. I didn't
Yeah.
understand why. Even like I said, even for Passions,
This is the fastest I've ever seen them do something.
even for Passions, this shit was
Yeah.
sloppily done. Because I feel like we give them passes on things like, oh, the writers just didn't understand how the technology worked and this and that. They've been to funerals. They know what a funeral, you know,
Yeah.
they understand how a funeral works. And this is absolutely
Oh,
like, that would be so. Who wants to sit through
no. Who wants
a
to?
body being cremated? And
No.
like you said, that's not how funeral homes work. That
Yeah.
like there are some funeral homes that also do the cremation like at their facility, but
Yeah.
most of them outsource it to
Yeah.
a crematorium.
And I don't think you get I mean, the way I hate to be morbid about this, but this is how fast it went. They get the ashes instantly. Like,
Yeah,
wouldn't
they
they?
get the
They
ashes so
would be
fast.
hot as fuck. I don't. I mean, really
Well,
bad.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. They were like, she'll be out in a minute. Like, wait, what? And
Yeah.
also, the majority of the urn is full of casket ashes at
Yeah.
that point, right? Because they burned her inside of the casket. It's ridiculous. And give him this tiny urn. It's like,
Which again, they offer it to Julian, and Julian says no. Give him to
Louise should take it.
Louise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nice of him. I mean, considering
Yeah.
all things
Considering
considered.
everything, Luis is very touched by that, and we have one last shot of him
Yeah.
holding the urn and just being like, lost.
Yeah, and then he turns to the other couples, Ethan and
Yeah.
Teresa and Whitney and Chad, and tells them, he makes this speech about loving each other and not taking
Thing
their
for
love for
granted.
granted. Oh, and you might think this is where we end it this week, right? You might think that, but remember we talked about the ball of light that came into
Charity.
existence, that when Charity and Grace prayed for their powers to finally do something good.
Which
And
I
so
did not remember any of this, and it was very nice to see them
I don't
do.
remember either. And
Yeah.
but it's the only way it works. It actually is the only way it works, and I'll explain. But so the ball of light floats over into the ocean in Bermuda, and it shines on to Sheridan's like body, and there's some fishermen that see it, and they pull her out of the water. At this point, we get also a glimpse of our a very new character, very important character, Brian. Okay, so we get our first look at Brian. Sheridan is there, perfectly fine. And this is why I say it had to be magic,
Yeah.
because that lady was a foot and a half from the explosion,
Yes.
from the epicenter of the
Yeah.
bomb. She would be in smithereens. She would be in
Yeah.
pieces,
Yeah.
right? But she's in perfect condition, and that's why I'm okay with them using magic and saying
Yeah.
that she's alive and like just magicking it away. What do you call it? Deus ex machina. Like
Yeah.
she's fine.
Exactly what it was. I was appreciative that they tied Grace and Charity into this, just kind of like this idea that when all hope is gone, it is over, it is done with. That they prayed and that it shot up, and shot up light, and yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, look at you all again. What a crazy week.
It was a great week.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it for the week. That's it for the week. It was a great, 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 great week. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Again, happy Thanksgiving to those of you on the Patreon who listened to this before Thanksgiving. Happy belated Thanksgiving to those of you who listened to this after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I enjoyed it. This was a good one this week.
Hey, just like Louise said, this be thankful for what you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for Passions this week.
Yes, me too.
All right, everybody. That's it. That's the whole show. Remember, you can find Dr. Eric Vera at Mr. Eric Vera,
Yeah.
right?
On
On
everything.
everything. And check the link in the description if you want to follow me on any of the Passions pages: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. I guess I don't use it at all
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, so that's with that. You are my passion for life.